Hey, welcome back to Splash Page. I am Andrew, and there is Sean. How you doing, Sean?
Doing great, man. How are you?
Awesome. We just got to watch episodes 7, 8, and 9 of The Legend of Vox Machina, and it was thoroughly amazing. It was so much fun to watch. What did you think?
I thought it was awesome. The 3-episode arc really focusing on the story around the Briarwoods and Percy reuniting with his sister, was just absolutely amazing, and I'm so pumped to see how this story ends.
Yeah, it's such a fun storyline, and they're doing it so well. And I mean, congrats to all the writers, but the animators, it just looks amazing. It sounds amazing. It's so enthralling, and they really got a lot of those little pieces from the campaign into the show. So yeah, let's talk about episodes 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah, and I think I know exactly where you want to start. While there are a lot of important things that happen, I think the one that we really want to focus on is a little Scanlan running around, causing a diversion.
Yes. Scanlan causing a diversion. So, in the show, I liked how they wrote it into his character, because it makes a lot of sense. Where Vex is kind of saying, "Stop it, Scanlan, just... you're not that," like, and he keeps trying to be like, "I can do stuff," and he finally convinces them to let him do his thing and immediately regrets it, which is very Scanlan.
Yeah, I have a question for you from the actual campaign. Did he have a sack of 3 different potions that he didn't know what they would do and utilize them? In the show, that was a huge part of this.
It has been so long, but I think he knew the potions in the game, but I don't actually remember. I do recall the fire breathing, because he did set the building on fire.
So the potions that he took in the show were, the first one allowed him to disapparate or teleport from one spot in the room to another until that potion kind of ran out. The second one just shrunk him to a very small size, and then the third one, allowed him to breathe fire, which is really cool, really fun.
Yeah. And I've seen the fire-breathing potion, and I watched the Critical Role game. Here's something this show does amazingly well, is visualizing these spells. Like that fire-breathing where you can't quite control it, he's almost throwing it up. Or later on when Keyleth is performing her healing spell, and I love the use of components there. It's not just a spell happens, just like, I need this and I need that, and we need to do it this way. Or even the necrotic damage from the last bunch of episodes. Really good job of visualizing all those things you keep hearing about in the game, and you're like, oh yeah, necrotic damage, and then they show you what that looks like in their minds. So I love that.
And I also, it's to the same point, how many little nods they give to the viewer that this is based on Dungeons and Dragons. Right before Scanlan takes that first potion, he opens up a door to try to hide, and he just finds, I think it's like 5 or 6 different guys sitting around a table. And someone says, I believe you can hear them say, like, roll the dice to see if it hits, or something like that, because they're obviously playing either Dungeons and Dragons or in-world Dungeons and Dragons.
There's literally a DM screen with the guy sitting behind it with all his notes.
Super funny. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah, amazing. But the moment that at least I've been waiting for, and I think a lot of the fans of Critical Role have been waiting for, is when Scanlan becomes a Triceratops.
I mean, it was awesome.
So much... It was such an iconic moment, and I believe in the game he didn't even tell the other characters. The actors knew, but Scanlan just kind of dipped off and jumped into this house on his own, got caught, freaked out, and I think there was even a debate between Sam and Matt Mercer, who was DMing, over whether or not Scanlan would know what a Triceratops even looked like. But he eventually was able to turn himself into a Triceratops, run around through the building, and jump off the roof as it burnt.
Yeah, that's great. And knowing Scanlan's character from, a handful of episodes of Vox Machina, the cartoon, you never see him really take on anyone in a fight, and seeing him basically go toe-to-toe for half an episode with one of the big bads was pretty awesome.
It was pretty amazing. And I almost forgot, but a lot of his spells did come out of his crotch in the game. Which, the lightning spell did come out of his crotch in the show.
Very cool. Definitely love that portion of these episodes. I think the larger portion of these episodes is obviously Percy in his story arc, where we get the background on the Briarwoods, we see his background with his sister, and then we see kind of modern day Percy going step for step after these folks who obviously took everything from him. And we see him on separate occasions put on his plague mask, and that's followed by kind of the smoke that comes around him. Andrew, what is that? Spoilers potentially, but I need to know what this is.
That is fair, yeah. So we move from fun, happy Scanlan to very serious, no mercy Percy. That is, that is Orthax. That is, I believe, a demon that has kind of inhabited Percy and gave him the dream of how to build the first in-world gun, which was Pepperbox, which has all the names on it.
Sorry, is that something that is in his backstory, or is that something he acquired during the campaign?
That was in his backstories. Now, again, I don't know how much Taliesin went into it with Matt beforehand. He probably said, "Here's my name, Percy, Frederick Steenbaum, Musil Klawowski, DeRollo III."
Even if that's wrong, that was impressive.
No, I believe that was right. The Klawowski, I don't know. Sometimes the pronunciation. But yeah, I don't know if he told Matt also, I have this demon, or also the names on the gun barrel are my vengeance, or if Matt added that and then he said, and you start to smoke and then you kind of realize what's happening. I don't know how much of it he put into his own backstory and how much of it Matt added. But he might have just said he had a dream and figured out the gun and Matt added the demon, or Taliesin might have said a demon is haunting me.
I love it.
Sure.
I love it.
Yeah.
It makes that character so unique and so much darker in what in a lot of situations is a very light and funny show. I do think that Percy brings a ton to this group of characters.
I think the word you're looking for is gravitas.
Yeah, maybe that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. No, he's fantastic. So yeah, that's the gun with the 5 names on it, and we've already gotten rid of 2 of them. Right? We got rid of Stonefell and Anders. We got rid of Stonefell and Anders today, 1 in each episode.
Yeah, and Percy always has something badass to say as he's killing somebody. And so we also saw Bad News for the first time. And so Bad News is a larger gun that I guess he's currently working on as far as the storyline goes. I don't know how it was in the actual campaign, but this thing's like a bigger shotgun-esque.
It's a monster,
shoulder cannon.
So I liked how they portrayed that, because it's strong enough to take out one of the giants, but just one of the giants. Because, in a game of Dungeons & Dragons, there's restrictions to how much damage you can cause, and if he, took a shot, his next turn he would have to reload, and then take a shot. He had so many shots versus reload actions, and then if he rolled a natural 1, the gun would break, and he'd have to spend an action to fix the gun. So it wasn't just a unlimited amount of firing and ammo. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing this is like the earlier level Bad News when he first got it, and it jammed up more often than not.
Got it. That's cool. And then, as he's working and fighting his way after he thinks his sister was killed, we get that awesome fight with Vox Machina versus the kind of coats of armor that's attacking them.
Yeah,
they pretty much
I believe
invulnerable.
Those are shield guardians, and yeah, they're a pain in the ass to beat. I think we played them in one of our games, but if I recall, they would take a lot of the damage of the guy that runs them, but that didn't really come into effect in this match. Yeah, they kind of found their weakness and were able to eventually take it out. And Anders, Stephen Root, who's phenomenal. Every big name star they get on here, they just murder. I don't know if they like these guys or hate them. They had David Tennant as Krieg the Dragon. Now they have Stephen Root as Anders. But yeah, Percy's demon was able to take him out after he turned everyone on him. So that was dominate person, I want to guess, with his weird tongue licking motion.
Yeah, it made it look like a silver tongue, like
Yep.
you know, a sly speech kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you know, inevitably you're going to have some storyline where you have characters turn against each other in that way, and we've even had that in our campaigns where you're like, okay,
Yeah.
am I gonna hit my friend, or can I just dance around him and keep shooting at the guy who's doing it? I'm
Yeah.
happy that they didn't spend too much time with them all just attacking Percy. Obviously Percy wouldn't have lasted very long.
No.
So
But he
got the
lasted
point
just
across,
long
but
enough.
we got the end that we wanted.
Yes. Yeah, that was fun, and that was and then once he cut his jaw out, well, one, he lost his silver tongue, and two, I'm sure he lost his concentration on the spell. But yeah,
right.
that was fun. Again, I like what they do with the spells in this show, because he has that tongue, which he had in the campaign, but the way he casts spells is that creepy lip-licking thing, whereas Scanlan's verbal portions are always sung, like when he was trying to figure out polymorph and it wasn't working until he sang it, and the way Keyleth performs magic is different than the way Pike performs magic. Everyone has their personalized kind of verbal somatic features that work for them, which I kind of love in this world.
Yeah. And let's go to Keyleth next, because I think she has quite a bit going on in this storyline. Starts with her kind of noticing that the tree, is it called the sun tree?
The sun tree.
The sun tree is dying or in really bad shape, and she tries to help it with sunlight underground, accidentally sets a little fire. But then later we also see her not only save Percy's sister's life, but kind of have a reaction to seeing the poor people that were hung and dressed as the group of Vox Machina on the sun tree.
Yeah.
And then it ends with her being an absolute badass and shooting a wall of ice and protecting the group and really killing a bunch of the zombies before, you know, the Deus Ex Machina of Pike came in.
But, when Pike finally Skyped in and saved the day.
Yeah, but before we get to Pike, with Keyleth, Vax finally professed his love for her.
Yeah.
Which is something we've kind of seen a nod to in earlier episodes, and even Vex picked up on it. What is it? What is that about? Is that a storyline in the campaign as well?
In-game, Vax and Keyleth kind of became a couple, and towards the end they were a couple. But, I mean, that obviously didn't happen by the Briarwood arc. That took hours and months and even years for that to kind of little bit by little bit. There was never like any moment in any of their real battles in the beginning where they were like fighting back to back and going, we fight together well.
Yeah.
Like in a game, everything kind of unfolds very slowly. Like what would be a 30-second to a minute-long battle might take you an hour and a half to fight in a game. So yeah, that unfolded over the course of months and years. But we're in cartoon land. Like that 30, 40-minute Triceratops fight lasted 5 seconds on screen, just a nod to it. Because, you know, you gotta fit it all into the cartoon. I did watch the post-episode wrap-up where they were talking about that a little bit, and Liam O'Brien, Vax, was talking about how, they had to speed it up to fit it in the show, and they asked Laura Bailey, who plays the sister Vex, like what she's feeling there. I thought it was kind of interesting. As far as her character is concerned, she sees her brother maybe falling in love with Keyleth, and she's terrified of him leaving her because all they've had all this time is each other. So they've had like dalliances before, but she kind of sees that this might be the real thing, and she's just terrified of him getting together with her and leaving Vex behind.
Gotcha. Yeah,
as a couple.
Because in earlier episodes, she does kind of like put it down or say like keep your head in the game and don't fall in love with her kind of thing. You know, maybe not that transparent, but you definitely get the feeling that Vax is not excited about it.
Because you could see that Vex is kind of shitty to Keyleth, but then also really loves her and doesn't really know how to deal with her feelings with her brother falling in love with her.
Got it. Cool. It's an interesting little side plot.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
From my knowledge, the actors aren't actually in love. They just made their characters in the game fall in love.
Correct. Keyleth is actually played by Matt Mercer's current wife.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
oh, cool.
They were engaged, I think, at the time, and if I remember correctly, because they always had like after-show wrap-ups, Liam or one of the three of them had mentioned, like, I think it was Liam had mentioned that, like, he talked to Matt, like, is this cool with you if I kind of court your wife as our characters? Is this like weird? But in game, they were all fine with it, but they did definitely have to discuss that outside of the game.
Gotcha. Well, from there, let's jump into our Deus Ex Machina, our friend Pike, who has separated herself from the rest of the group and is going kind of on her own quest to get back her magic power or to be seen in better light by kind of the church and the god that she recognizes. And she comes in as a projection of herself to really save the day.
Yeah, she's a total badass in that shot. She kills a lot of undead, heals Scanlan's arm. Yeah, just gives everyone some kind of guiding buff on their weapons, the entire town. So I love what they did with Pike, because again, like we talked about before, the actress Ashley Johnson was filming blind spots, so she couldn't be on the show a lot. So Matt was just like, yeah, and Pike went off to the church. And at one point, she did lose her powers in the game because of she was like being too ferocious or too just callous on the battlefield in general, and then she had to like gain them back. So they're kind of mixing a couple things in here. But yeah, so we just kind of said, oh yeah, she's off doing church stuff, and then occasionally when she came back, she's like, yeah, I was at the church and we built a farm and then we did this. And now we get to see things that didn't happen in the game. Like we get to see what Matt thought Pike was doing out there and what actually was happening while she was away. Because in a game, you're just playing with the people there. So now we get to see, like again, like we got to see Silas and Delilah, kind of their backstory. We never got to see that in the game because Vox Machina wouldn't have been there for that moment.
Right. Yeah. And I was curious about your thoughts about seeing their background as well, because for me, you know, it's like an attempt at humanizing them, which certainly is something that all good fiction and all good writing does. It gives you gray characters as opposed to black and white characters. Right. But curious, knowing what horrible things these characters have done, is seeing their backstory giving you any different feeling toward them?
No, Matt did such a good job characterizing them in the show that even when they were just talking to or fighting Vox Machina, you felt their passion for each other and their kind of reasoning for doing the things they were doing. Again, like I don't think they gave us their actual backstory in the campaign like that, but it makes perfect sense, and they did. Matt, for one, Mercer did such a good job with them in the game, making them feel real and passionate and not just, they're pure evil, of course, but they love each other, and that still comes through in the show. Everything they're doing is for each other. It makes perfect sense. And that's probably what he wrote in the backstory, but just never told them, because there's so much that he writes into these stories that you just never find out. Sometimes you do after the campaign, and then he kind of does they kind of do a rundown of the cast asking him questions like, what was this from 7 months ago? And it's like, oh yeah, this would have happened if you went here.
Nice. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
With all that said, is there anything else from a plot standpoint? I think we do have a few Easter eggs to call out. The one that continually cracks me up after hearing from you and kind of learning more about this story is doors, and doors being a huge enemy. And there were multiple occasions when they struggled with doors, but the one that really cracked me up was Scanlan being a Triceratops, and of course, right before he charges through a door, he turns back into himself and just slams into the door and falls down.
I did enjoy that Vedmeyer and his army had some trouble with a door of their own, that Scanlan locked them out of the room.
Yeah, that's true. The other big one, obviously, Matt Mercer. We think we found him in these episodes. Let us know what you guys think.
And then there was that one moment in the battle, I believe it was the battle with the undead, where Vex kind of shoots 3 arrows out of her bow at once, and they kind of split off into 6 or 9 arrows. That was her bow of Sky Sentinel that she was using. I believe that's another Critical Role homebrew. It just allowed her arrows to split off and do extra damage and hit more targets. So that was fun to see. Oh, and they always had the never-ending rope with them. They got to use that. They tied that onto one of the arrows at one point in the show as well. So we got to see the never-ending rope come up. And I think that's it, right? Do we have anything else? We went through the whole plot. We went through any Easter eggs we were able to find. And now we
that's all.
Await with bated breath for episodes 10, 11, and 12 and the denouement of The Legend of Vox Machina. Season 1 at least. Because we've already got a Season 2 greenlight. It's on its way.
Yeah. So that's really exciting. And hopefully we hear that it's going to be greenlit for episodes beyond. But thanks everyone for hanging out, listening to us talk about Vox Machina, a show we're obviously very, very much enjoying and passionate about. Let us know what you think. Let us know your favorite part. Which time that Scanlan gave the middle finger was your favorite in this episode, because I think he did it about 50 times. And let us know what else you thought. I'm Sean. That's Andrew. Thanks, everyone. Take it easy, YouTube.
Good night.